The battlefield was silent now, but the silence did not mean peace. Ships lay broken in the dust of the barren moon. Smoke rose from craters where fire had burned for days. Metal still glowed red in places, twisted and sharp like teeth. The air carried the bitter smell of fuel, blood, and ash. Nothing moved except drifting pieces of debris falling slowly under the weak pull of gravity. The war had passed here like a storm, destroying everything in its path. Armies had clashed. Warships had burned the sky. Soldiers had screamed and vanished in fire. Now there was only wreckage, corpses, and shadows. The battle was over. At least that was what everyone believed. From the darkness of the cliffs, a shape crawled out. It was small for its kind, no larger than a transport shuttle, but its wings folded against its body showed what it was. Scales pale as snow shimmered under the broken light. Red eyes glowed faintly, alert and watchful. This was no ordinary beast. It was an albino dwarf dragon. Most believed the species extinct. Once, dragons had been enslaved by empires across the galaxy. Their fire used to burn worlds. When they broke free, they vanished, hunted to near extinction. But this one had survived, scarred and cautious, living in shadows where no hunter searched. It had seen many battlefields before, feeding on what was left behind. But today it sensed something different. The dragon moved slowly across the battlefield, its claws scraping metal. It sniffed the air, lowering its head near broken armor and crushed helmets. Most bodies were already cold, their spirits gone. But the dragon's sharp senses caught something faint. A heartbeat, weak, hidden under metal. It pushed aside a shattered engine with surprising strength. Beneath it, half buried under wreckage, lay a human soldier. His face was pale, lips cracked, but his chest rose and fell faintly. His eyes opened for a moment, filled with terror at the sight above him. A dragon. The soldier tried to lift his weapon, but it slipped from his weak hands. He was too far gone. His whisper was broken, barely a breath. "Kill me, if you must." The dragon did not strike. Instead, it tilted its head. Its red eyes narrowed, studying this fragile creature who still clung to life. The dragon sniffed again, and then it turned. The heartbeat was not alone. There were more. It walked across the ruins, pushing aside debris. One by one, it found them. 9 in total. 9 human soldiers left behind. Some were wounded, some barely conscious, some fading close to death. They had been forgotten in the chaos of battle, abandoned when the fleets withdrew. The dragon circled them slowly. Could end them all with a single breath of fire. Could leave them and scavengers would do the rest. Yet something in their eyes caught its attention. Even broken and weak, these humans did not surrender. Their eyes carried the same fire the dragon once felt when it had fought against chains. Night fell on the battlefield. The soldiers, weak and afraid, huddled together, whispering. They had no idea why the dragon was there. Some thought it had come to eat them. Others believed it was a vision, a hallucination of their dying minds. But the dragon did not attack. Instead, it brought food, small creatures it hunted in the wastelands. It dropped them near the soldiers and waited. First, none dared to touch it. But hunger was stronger than fear. Slowly they ate. The soldiers argued quietly. One said it was a trap, that the dragon was only feeding them to keep them alive until it wanted something. Another said it might be their only chance. But all of them knew one truth. Without help, they would not survive another day. As they rested, one soldier, the youngest of them, whispered to the others. "Why would it help us? Dragons hate us. Everyone hates us." No one had an answer. The dragon sat a short distance away, its eyes glowing like fire in the dark. It listened. It did not understand all their words, but it understood tone. It understood fear. It had felt it many times before. These humans reminded it of itself. Hunted, abandoned, refusing to die. When morning came, the dragon did something none expected. It lowered its wing and dragged its body closer to them, making a space beneath its great pale wing. A shelter from the burning sun. A shield from the cold wind. The humans hesitated. Then, one by one, they crawled beneath it, lying in its shadow. For the first time since the battle, they felt warmth that was not from fire, and safety that was not from walls. But peace would not last. Far above, on the edge of the moon's orbit, enemy ships circled. Scanners searched the ruins for survivors. The enemy commander had ordered all humans destroyed, with no survivors left to tell the story. Soon, soldiers would be sent down to burn the wreckage and finish what the war had started. The dragon lifted its head, sensing movement in the distance. Its eyes narrowed. It had found the humans by chance, but now it felt a choice rising inside it. Could leave them, slip back into shadows as it always had, survive alone. Or it could stay, protect them, fight for them. The soldiers, broken and weak, did not know it yet. But their fate was now tied to the dragon's choice. And the dragon, staring at the horizon where enemy scouts would soon appear, knew something had changed. The galaxy believed dragons extinct. It believed humans weak and broken. But here, on this dead battlefield, an albino dwarf dragon and 9 abandoned soldiers had come together. The world would soon learn how dangerous such a bond could be. And nothing would ever be the same again. The 9 soldiers woke slowly under the pale morning light. Their bodies were weak, their wounds raw, their throats dry from lack of water. For hours they had slept in the shadow of the albino dwarf dragon's great wing, too exhausted to question why it had not killed them in the night. Now, with daylight stretching across the battlefield, fear returned. They remembered what sat near them, its red eyes glowing faintly in the smoke-filled air. The dragon, a creature of myth, a monster according to every story they had ever been told. The first to speak was Sergeant Cole, the oldest of them. His voice was hoarse but sharp. "Weapons up. If it tries anything, we put it down." The soldiers fumbled for rifles, but most of their weapons were broken or nearly out of charge. Their hands trembled with weakness. Even if they fired, the dragon's scales looked too thick, its body too strong. Still, they pointed their weapons anyway because it gave them a little courage. The dragon tilted its head, watching them without fear. Its breath came out in slow clouds of heat, curling through the air. It knew they were ready to strike, yet it made no move. Instead, it stretched its pale wings and turned its head toward the cliffs. The soldiers followed its gaze and saw what it was looking at. A faint shadow moved across the rocks. Small enemy drones, sweeping the ruins. Searching, the dragon let out a low growl, deep and steady, like thunder before a storm. The sound rattled the soldiers' bones. Then it looked back at them and stepped toward the cliffs, its tail dragging across the broken ground. Private Mason, the youngest soldier, swallowed hard. It wants us to follow." "No," another soldier hissed. "It's leading us into a trap." Sergeant Cole stared at the dragon, his jaw tight. He had fought too many wars, seen too many tricks, but something in his gut told him this was different. "Trap or not, we can't stay here. Those drones will call in ground troops." The soldiers hesitated, then slowly rose, leaning on each other for support. Their armor was dented, their bodies battered, but they followed the dragon, because the alternative was to die where they stood. The dragon led them through the wreckage of fallen ships, past twisted engines and shattered weapons. It moved with surprising grace for its size, slipping through gaps and climbing steep cliffs with ease. The humans struggled to keep up, stumbling on broken ground, their boots sliding on ash and dust. They entered a narrow ravine where the air grew cooler, shadows falling over them. The sound of drones faded behind, muffled by stone walls. Here, hidden deep between rocks, the dragon stopped. It lowered its body to the ground and used its claws to drag away a large boulder. Beneath the stone was a dark opening, a cave. The soldiers stared. "It has a den," whispered Corporal Reyes. "We're walking right into its mouth." But Sergeant Cole raised a hand. "If the enemy's hunting the battlefield, this may be the only place they won't look." The dragon stepped aside, waiting, its red eyes fixed on the soldiers, as if testing whether they would trust it. One by one they entered. The cave smelled of earth and smoke. Strange symbols were scratched into the walls, claw marks old and deep. The floor was covered in bones, some animal, some alien. But there were no human skulls among them. The soldiers settled against the walls, too tired to move further. The dragon entered last, curling its body near the entrance. Its wings folded around the cave's mouth, blocking out most of the light. It had sealed them inside with it. The soldiers sat in uneasy silence. They could hear the dragon's slow breathing, like a furnace burning in the dark. Every breath seemed to shake the walls. Private Mason finally whispered, his voice trembling. "Why is it helping us? What does it want?" No one answered. Hours passed. The soldiers dozed, some slipping into shallow, restless sleep. When they woke, they found something strange near the center of the cave. The dragon had brought them water, collected in a broken piece of hull, filled with condensation from deep in the rocks. It also laid down pieces of meat, raw and bloody, freshly hunted. The soldiers stared at the food. None moved at first. Then hunger won. They cooked what they could with sparks from their failing gear, eating in silence. Every bite felt like betrayal of their fear, yet their strength began to return. As they ate, Sergeant Cole spoke. His voice was low, steady, but filled with thought. "We were left behind. Our fleet withdrew. Our commanders think we're dead. The enemy will make sure of it. But this thing," he glanced at the dragon, "this thing doesn't want us dead." Corporal Reyes shook her head. "It's not a friend. It's an animal. We're just useful to it." "Maybe," Cole said, "but useful is better than dead." The dragon opened its eyes at the sound of their voices. It stared at them, unblinking, for a long time. Then, slowly, it lowered its head until it rested on the ground only a few feet from them. Its hot breath washed over them, strong and heavy. It was close enough to kill them in a second. But it did not move. It simply watched. The soldiers felt something strange then. Not trust, not yet, but a sense of recognition, as if the dragon saw in them the same thing it carried in itself. Survival against impossible odds. That night, as the soldiers rested again, the dragon shifted its body to block the cave entrance completely, its scales glowing faintly in the dark. Outside, far away, they heard distant explosions. The enemy was burning the battlefield, erasing every trace of human presence. Inside the cave, 9 abandoned soldiers and 1 pale dragon lay hidden together. For the first time since the war had taken everything from them, the soldiers felt a thin spark of hope. But none of them knew the truth yet. The enemy commander was not satisfied with burning wreckage. He wanted survivors hunted. He wanted proof none had escaped. And soon, he would send soldiers into the ravine. When that moment came, the humans would have no choice. They would have to stand with the dragon, or die with it. The night stretched long inside the dragon's cave. The 9 human soldiers slept in turns, their weapons resting on their laps even though most were cracked, low on charge, or nearly useless. The dragon lay coiled near the entrance, its scales glowing faintly in the dark like pale moonlight. Every time it shifted, the sound of claws scraping stone echoed like distant thunder. Sergeant Cole did not sleep. He sat with his back to the wall, eyes fixed on the creature that had become their unlikely guardian. He had fought many enemies in his life, but never imagined hiding beneath the wing of a dragon. Still, it was alive and they were alive. That was more than he expected when the battle had ended. Outside, the world burned. The enemy was sweeping the battlefield, leaving no trace of human presence. The dull roar of distant fires carried into the cave, along with the rumble of ships circling high above. It was clear this war was not just about victory. It was about erasing humanity completely. At dawn, the soldiers were woken by the dragon's low growl. Its head lifted, nostrils flaring, eyes narrowing at the cave entrance. Something was wrong. Cole signaled the others to be ready. Weapons up. Quiet. The dragon rose slowly, pressing its body close to the ground, its muscles coiled tight. The soldiers felt their hearts race, waiting for whatever had caught its attention. Then they heard it too. A faint mechanical buzz. Drones. Not far now. The dragon flicked its tail, then padded deeper into the cave. It moved with purpose, nudging a section of the wall with its snout. To the soldier's shock, part of the stone shifted. Behind it, a narrow tunnel led down into darkness. Private Mason's eyes widened. It has a way out. Cole gave a sharp nod. Move. Now. Quiet. The soldiers followed, stumbling into the tight tunnel. The dragon came last, its wings folding close to fit through the stone walls. The air grew colder as they descended, the light fading until only the faint glow of the dragon's scales lit their path. Behind them, at the cave's entrance, enemy drones hovered in. Their red eyes scanned the floor, mapping every bone, every scrap of human gear. They hummed, clicking softly as they relayed signals to orbit. Moments later, heavy boots echoed against stone. Enemy soldiers had arrived. But by then, the humans and dragon were gone. The tunnel twisted deep underground, leading them into a hidden cavern where underground rivers ran black and silent. Stalactites hung like teeth from the ceiling, and the sound of dripping water echoed endlessly. The soldiers gathered, gasping from the climb. Cole studied the dragon, his face hard. It knew we'd be hunted. It's keeping us alive. Corporal Reyes shook her head. Or it's keeping us alive until it decides to eat us. Don't fool yourself, Sarge. This thing isn't on our side. Before Cole could answer, the dragon growled again, sharp and urgent. It turned its head toward a second tunnel, ears twitching. The soldiers froze. From the darkness came faint voices. Enemy voices. The enemy soldiers had tracked them underground. Cole cursed under his breath. We can't fight in these tunnels. We'll be slaughtered. The dragon moved suddenly, spreading its wings wide despite the tight cavern. It hissed, smoke curling from its nostrils. Its eyes burned like fire. It wanted to fight. No, Cole hissed at it, even though he knew the beast could not understand words. He pointed down another tunnel, urging the soldiers forward. Move, damn it! They ran, stumbling through the winding passages. Their boots splashed in shallow water, every sound echoing like gunfire in the dark. Behind them, enemy lights flickered. Shadows grew closer. The hunt was on. The soldiers pushed themselves harder, but their bodies were weak. Wounds burned. Lungs struggled for air. Private Mason tripped, falling hard. Corporal Reyes hauled him up, but it cost them precious seconds. The enemy was closing fast. Then the dragon stopped, turned, blocking the tunnel with its pale bulk. Its claws dug deep into the stone floor. Smoke poured from its mouth, filling the air with the bitter taste of fire. Cole's eyes widened. It's going to fight. The soldiers stared, torn between running and staying. None of them could believe what they were seeing. An albino dwarf dragon, one of the last of its kind, standing between them and death. The enemy arrived. Flashlights cut through the smoke. Figures in heavy armor filled the tunnel, weapons raised. The first shot cracked through the air, searing past the dragon's head. That was the spark. The dragon roared, the sound deafening, shaking stone loose from the ceiling. Fire burst from its jaws, white-hot flames filling the tunnel in a storm of heat. Enemy soldiers screamed as their armor melted, weapons clattering to the ground. The narrow space amplified the fire, turning it into a furnace. The humans covered their faces, heat burning their skin even from a distance. But they were alive. The dragon surged forward, slamming into the enemy line with claws and teeth. It moved with savage precision, each strike breaking armor, each bite crushing bone. The tunnel became chaos. Flames, screams, smoke so thick it was hard to breathe. Cole shouted, "Go! Move now!" The soldiers obeyed, stumbling deeper into the cavern while the dragon tore through their hunters. The sounds of battle echoed behind them, roars, gunfire, and the dying cries of enemies. When the sounds faded, the dragon returned. Its scales were scorched black in places, its breath ragged, but its red eyes still burned with life. Blood dripped from its claws. The soldiers looked at it in stunned silence. For the first time, none raised a weapon. None called it a monster. Private Mason whispered, almost in awe, "It saved us." Cole nodded slowly, his voice low and heavy. No. Fought with us. That makes it something more. But even as hope flickered in their hearts, danger was not gone. They all knew the truth. The enemy now had proof survivors existed. The commander would not stop until every one of them was dead. The humans had been hunted. Now they had a protector. But the real war was only beginning. The underground cavern fell quiet after the battle. The smell of fire and blood still clung to the air, heavy and sharp. Pieces of enemy armor lay melted into the stone. Twisted shapes that glowed faintly red where the dragon's fire had struck hardest. Drops of water dripped from the ceiling, hissing when they touched scorched rock. The 9 soldiers sat in silence, their faces pale, their eyes wide. They had seen death many times before, but nothing like this. An albino dwarf dragon, long thought extinct, had unleashed its fire to protect them. The memory of its roar, the blinding flames, and the screams of the enemy still echoed in their ears. Private Mason was the first to speak. His voice was shaky. We would be dead without it. Corporal Reyes crossed her arms, still breathing hard. Or maybe we're just alive until it decides otherwise. But Sergeant Cole shook his head. His face was grim, but his eyes were sharp. No, it chose to fight for us, not against us. Remember that. The dragon stood at the tunnel entrance, its body filling the space like a living wall. Smoke curled from its nostrils, but its breathing was steady again. Its pale scales glowed faintly in the darkness, though many were cracked and blackened from the flames it had endured. Blood, both its own and its enemies, stained its claws. It lowered its head slowly, watching the soldiers with its red eyes. Not a hunter's gaze, but something else. Recognition. The soldiers rested there for hours, regaining strength. They shared the last scraps of food they carried, while the dragon disappeared into the tunnels. When it returned, it brought more strange creatures it had hunted in the dark, their bodies still warm. The humans cooked the meat over sparking wires, eating in silence, their hunger too strong to argue. For the first time, they felt less like prisoners of fate and more like survivors. Cole sat apart from the others, staring at the glowing cavern walls. His voice was low, thoughtful. Do you know what this means? Reyes frowned. It means we're running with a beast that shouldn't exist. Cole shook his head. It means the war isn't finished. Everyone thinks we're dead. Everyone thinks this planet is nothing but ashes. But we're still here. Us and it. The others listened, tired but alert. The galaxy, Cole continued, forgot about us the moment the fleets left. But if we survive this, if word spreads that an albino dwarf dragon fought alongside humans, everything changes. They can't erase us. Not anymore. Mason's eyes lit with hope. Then we can still fight back? Cole nodded slowly. Yes, but we'll need more than hope. We'll need weapons, and we'll need each other. The dragon tilted its head as if sensing the meaning of his words. It let out a deep rumble, neither hostile nor calm, but steady, like agreement. The following days blurred into survival. The dragon guided them through hidden tunnels and caverns, showing paths only it knew. The soldiers learned to move with silence, to rest when the dragon rested, and to follow its signals when danger was near. Slowly, they began to understand its ways. A flick of its tail meant hide. A growl meant enemy movement. A low huff of smoke meant food or water was close. In return, the soldiers shared their own skills. They repaired what little gear they had left, piecing together weapons from wreckage. Broken rifles were reforged into crude shotguns. Shattered armor plates became shields. They even built traps from enemy scraps, setting them at tunnel entrances. Every day they trained. Wounded bodies grew stronger, broken spirits steadied. And every day, the bond between soldiers and dragon grew tighter. Private Mason began sketching on the cavern walls with bits of burned stone. Marks of their journey, crude maps of tunnels, even drawings of the dragon itself. The dragon watched him with curious eyes, sometimes lowering its head as if posing. Reyes scoffed at first, calling it foolish. But soon she, too, carved her knife into the rock, marking tallies for every day they survived. The wall of tallies grew fast. One night, as they rested, Cole sat beside the dragon's head. Its great eye blinked slowly, the glowing red reflecting in his tired face. "You've seen this war longer than us, haven't you?" he murmured. "You've seen more battles than we ever could." The dragon did not answer, of course, but its low rumble vibrated through the stone, like a story spoken in a language too old to understand. Cole nodded anyway. "Then you know what comes next. They'll send more. They won't stop. Not until we're gone." He was right. Far above, the enemy commander sat in his warship, reviewing the broken reports from soldiers who never returned. Scanners showed strange heat signatures deep underground. Survivors. Human survivors. And something else. A single phrase repeated in the intercepted transmissions. "Dragon." The commander's face darkened. "Impossible," he whispered. "That species was wiped out." But the evidence was clear. An unknown force was resisting. 9 humans. 1 dragon. He slammed his fist on the table. "Send in the warbands. Burn the tunnels. I want their ashes delivered to me. No one defies us. Not humans. Not beasts." Back underground, the dragon stirred suddenly, lifting its head. It sensed movement far above, ships descending, soldiers gathering. The ground trembled faintly under the weight of engines. Cole saw it too. He looked at his soldiers, his voice steady. "They're coming. And this time they'll come in force." Reyes clenched her fists. "Then we fight." Mason's voice shook, but his eyes burned with new strength. "We fight with it." He looked at the dragon. "Together." The dragon exhaled, smoke rolling from its jaws, filling the cavern with the smell of fire. Its eyes glowed brighter, like embers fanned to life. The humans had been forgotten, left to die on a battlefield no one cared to remember. But now they were no longer just survivors. They were warriors with a dragon at their side. And when the enemy came, the war thought lost would begin again. The ground shook with distant thunder. Deep in the tunnels, the 9 soldiers felt it through stone and bone. The steady rhythm of war engines descending from orbit. Dust fell from the ceiling. Stalactites cracked. The dragon's head lifted, its nostrils flaring. Its red eyes burned brighter in the dark, knowing what was coming. Sergeant Cole stood, tightening the straps of his battered armor. His face was pale but his voice sharp. "They've found us. This is it." The soldiers exchanged grim looks. Their wounds had healed enough for them to stand, to fight, but not enough for a war. Their weapons were patched together with scraps, their armor more rust than steel. They were 9 soldiers against an army. And yet, none of them spoke of surrender. Not anymore. The dragon moved to the cavern's edge, tail sweeping the ground. Its body was tense, fire smoke curling from its jaws. It had fought beside them once. Now it would fight again. Corporal Reyes studied the crude traps they had built over the last days. Spiked pits hidden beneath loose stone. Explosive charges pieced together from broken grenades. Walls ready to collapse with a single push. None of it would stop an army, but it would slow them. She looked at the dragon. "That thing is our firepower. We keep the enemy close, we let it burn them." Cole nodded. "Ambush. No retreat. If we break here, there won't be another chance." The soldiers moved quickly, placing themselves in the shadows of the tunnels. Their breathing was steady, eyes sharp. Private Mason, though the youngest, gripped his weapon with firm hands. His fear was still there, but so was a new fire. The sounds grew louder. Boots against stone. Voices shouting commands. The enemy was coming. Then the first squad appeared. Armored figures moved carefully through the tunnels, weapons glowing faintly in the dark. Their scanners hummed, sweeping every shadow. They were cautious, but not cautious enough. A sharp click echoed. A wall of stone, rigged by the soldiers, collapsed with a thunderous crash. Enemy soldiers were buried, their screams cut short by falling rock. Dust filled the air. The survivors stumbled, raising weapons, too late. The dragon struck. It roared, the sound shaking the tunnels, and unleashed a storm of fire. White-hot flames rolled through the passage like a tidal wave, melting steel, burning flesh. Enemy armor glowed red, then crumbled. The screams filled the cavern, but the dragon did not stop. It poured fire until nothing remained but smoke and ash. The humans opened fire as well, their patched weapons spitting plasma bolts. They aimed carefully, each shot counted, cutting down stragglers who tried to escape the dragon's fury. The first wave was destroyed, but the noise carried deep into the tunnels. More boots, more voices, more shadows. The enemy was not retreating. They were coming in force. Cole shouted, "Fall back to the choke point." The soldiers ran, dragging their makeshift weapons, setting charges behind them. The dragon covered their retreat, its claws scraping sparks from stone, tail lashing against walls to block paths. They reached a narrow passage where the ceiling hung low, the perfect kill zone. The soldiers spread out, setting themselves along the sides, weapons ready. The dragon crouched at the center, smoke pouring from its jaws. Then the enemy came again, dozens this time, the tunnel filled with gunfire. Bolts of plasma cut through the dark, striking walls, spraying stone. The humans fired back, every shot aimed with desperate precision. The dragon roared and launched forward, fire and fury exploding from its mouth. The tunnel became a furnace once more. Enemies screamed, blinded, their armor dripping like molten wax. Some tried to push through, but the dragon's claws ripped them apart. Others turned to flee, only to find the soldiers' fire waiting for them. Still, the enemy pressed harder. Reinforcements poured in wave after wave. Explosions shook the ground as charges detonated, collapsing parts of the tunnel, crushing soldiers in the rubble. But more kept coming. Then it happened. One of the humans fell. Private Mason, the youngest, was hit. A plasma bolt struck his chest, and he collapsed against the wall. Reyes pulled him back, shouting his name, but his breathing was ragged. His eyes searched the dark, unfocused. I can't feel my legs," he whispered. His blood soaked the ground. Cole crouched beside him, gripping his shoulder. "Stay with us, Mason. Don't close your eyes." But Mason's gaze moved past him, toward the dragon. The beast's massive head lowered, its glowing eyes locking onto the dying soldier. Mason's lips curved into a faint smile. "It's beautiful." His breath slowed, then stopped. Silence fell for a heartbeat. The dragon's eyes narrowed, his body tensed. Then, with a roar that shook the entire cavern, it unleashed its full fury. Fire exploded, brighter and hotter than before. The narrow tunnel could not contain it. Flames burst through cracks, tearing stone apart, filling every space with searing heat. The enemy screamed, but their screams were drowned by the dragon's roar. It was no longer just fighting. It was avenging. The soldiers could only watch, their weapons lowered, as the dragon burned wave after wave, claws smashing through walls, tail crushing enemies like insects. Smoke and fire filled the tunnels until nothing remained alive but them. When the battle ended, the cavern was silent again. The air was thick with ash. The stone glowed faintly red, scorched by flame. The bodies of enemies lay in melted heaps, unrecognizable. The dragon stood in the center, chest heaving, scales cracked and blackened, its breath ragged, but its eyes still glowed with fire. The soldiers gathered around Mason's body, their faces grim. Cole knelt, his hand resting on the young man's chest. "You didn't die alone, son. You'll be remembered." The dragon lowered its head, rumbling low, almost mournful. Its breath swept over Mason's body, warm and steady, as if marking him with its own fire. Cole looked up at the beast, his voice steady. "He died because we fought together, because we dared to stand. And so help me, we're going to finish this. For him, for us, for every soul they tried to erase." The soldiers' eyes burned with new determination. They were fewer now, 8 instead of 9, but their will was sharper than ever. The dragon raised its head, exhaling a burst of smoke that curled into the shape of fire in the air. It turned toward the tunnels where the enemy had come from, its claws scraping sparks against stone. The battle was not over. The enemy commander was still out there, and he would not stop until the dragon and every last human were dead. But now the enemy had seen what the albino dwarf dragon truly was. A weapon, a force, a fire that could not be chained again. And for the first time, the galaxy would tremble at the thought of humans and dragons fighting as one. The tunnels no longer shook with footsteps. They shook with thunder. From deep within the caverns, the 8 surviving soldiers felt it. The arrival of something massive, something alive with hate and purpose. The enemy commander had finally come. His troops no longer searched in scattered patrols. Now they marched as one, the sound of boots and war engines rolling like an earthquake. Sergeant Cole stood in silence, staring down the black tunnel. His face was hollowed by fatigue, but his eyes were unbroken steel. The men and women beside him were torn, bloodied, and haunted by Mason's death. Yet not one of them suggested retreat. They knew there was no escape. Beside them, the albino dwarf dragon crouched, wings folded tight against its sides, its breath curling out in hot smoke. Its scales glowed faintly in the dim light, scars blackened by battle, yet power radiating from every line of its body. Its red eyes burned as it stared down the tunnel with the same fierce patience as the humans. The commander was coming. Reyes adjusted the charge on her rifle. "So this is how it ends," she muttered almost to herself. Cole answered quietly, "Not an end. A beginning." The dragon's head turned slightly, as though it understood. Then it leaned forward, pressing its massive forehead against the stone floor for a heartbeat. The humans realized it was bracing itself for war. The first enemy scouts appeared, armored figures moving carefully, their weapons raised. The soldiers didn't fire. They waited. Shadows thickened behind the scouts as more poured into the tunnel. Dozens, then hundreds, their numbers choking the narrow space. And then the commander arrived. He was taller than the others, wrapped in dark armor that pulsed with red energy lines. His helmet's visor glowed like molten metal. He carried a long staff that shimmered with plasma light, a weapon of authority and fear. His voice boomed through the tunnel, carried by speakers in his armor. "Humans," he sneered, his words dripping with contempt. "You were meant to die forgotten, yet here you are, clinging to life like vermin. And you, dragon," his gaze shifted toward the beast, "you should have stayed buried in myth. Today, I end both mistakes." Cole lifted his rifle, his voice calm. "We're done hiding." The commander raised his staff. "Burn them all." The tunnel exploded with chaos. Enemy soldiers surged forward, weapons blazing. The humans fired back with deadly precision. Plasma bolts lit the dark like lightning, striking armor and stone. The dragon roared, a roar so loud it cracked walls, and unleashed a torrent of fire that turned the narrow tunnel into a furnace. Dozens burned instantly, their screams echoing as their armor melted. The front line collapsed, but more pushed from behind, climbing over their burning comrades. The dragon slashed with claws that tore through steel like paper, each strike sending bodies flying. The humans fought like shadows, weaving between rocks, firing with ruthless accuracy. Reyes dropped 3 with headshots before ducking behind cover. Private Harris hurled an improvised explosive that detonated in a brilliant blast, caving in part of the ceiling. Still, the enemy pressed. Still, they advanced. Then the commander moved. He strode forward through smoke and flame, unshaken by the carnage around him. The dragon's fire washed across his armor, but the red lines of his plating absorbed the heat, glowing brighter, shielding him. He raised his staff, and a surge of energy blasted outward, hurling 2 soldiers into the walls with bone-breaking force. "Your struggle is meaningless," his voice thundered. "No one fears humans. No one fears dragons." The dragon's eyes narrowed. His chest swelled, fire building deep within. The soldiers regrouped behind it, their faces hard with fury. Cole shouted, "Together!" The humans poured fire at the commander, every rifle spitting glowing bolts. Sparks sprayed from his armor, but he kept walking. His staff swung, deflecting shots, sending arcs of energy that scorched the walls. The dragon launched forward, claws raised, fire bursting from its jaws. The commander met it head-on, slamming his staff against its chest. A shockwave blasted outward, throwing soldiers off their feet, cracking stone. The dragon roared in pain but struck back, its jaws snapping shut around the staff. Sparks exploded as its teeth clamped on glowing plasma. The cavern became a battlefield of gods. Dragon and commander locked in brutal combat. The humans scrambled to their feet, firing into gaps, striking enemy soldiers who tried to flank. Harris took a blade through the side but kept fighting, blood staining his armor. Reyes screamed orders, her voice raw but steady. The commander forced the dragon back, his staff burning against its scales. But the dragon struck again, tail whipping with bone-breaking force, slamming him into the wall. The tunnel shook, rocks falling from the ceiling. For a heartbeat, the commander was pinned. Cole saw the chance. Now! The soldiers unleashed everything, rifles, grenades, explosives ripped from enemy packs. The air filled with fire and shrapnel. The commander staggered under the storm, armor cracking. The dragon lunged, jaws snapping shut around his chest. With a roar that shook the galaxy, it bit down. Armor shattered. Sparks and blood burst into the air. The commander screamed, his voice cut short as the dragon crushed him, then hurled the broken body to the ground. Silence fell. The enemy soldiers froze. Their commander lay broken, his staff cracked in two, his armor smoking. The dragon stood over him, blood and fire dripping from its jaws. The humans stood with weapons raised, their eyes blazing with fury. For a moment, the enemy army wavered. Then they began to retreat, dragging their wounded, leaving the dead. Fear had finally gripped them. Fear of humans. Fear of dragons. Fear of what they had just witnessed. The survivors didn't cheer. They didn't smile. They stood in silence, the weight of death heavy on their shoulders. Mason's face haunted them. Harris leaned against the wall, clutching his wound. Reyes reloaded out of habit, though no enemy dared return. Cole lowered his rifle slowly. His voice was quiet, almost a whisper, yet it echoed in the cavern. This will be remembered. The dragon turned its head toward him. Its eyes, still glowing with fire, softened for a heartbeat. It lowered itself, wings spreading wide, and released a roar. Not of rage this time, but of triumph. The sound rolled through the tunnels, through the battlefield above, out into the sky. It was a declaration. Word of this battle would spread. 9 humans abandoned. 1 dragon thought extinct. Together, they faced an army and killed its commander. The galaxy would hear. The galaxy would remember. And the galaxy would tremble.